Today's news story about two lost hikers who were found safe in the Boundary Waters canoe area after 4 days reminded me of the pile of slides in my office. Those slides were given to me by the heirs of Mike Eames. They document an adventure we shared 30 years ago when we paddled into the Canadian wilderness for a week of living on the land. Mike was a lot older than we were. I suppose he was 70-something at the time. Mike wrote outdoor stuff for the Eden Prairie News. The editor of the Eden Prairie News was Dick Dahl. He organized the expedition, which was to include me and my pal, Paul Matthews. Dick thought it would be great fun to include the old man in our group. Dick was right. Mike was a trove of outdoor knowledge and a meticulous recorder of data. As we paddled and portaged from lake to lake, he kept us apprised of the names and functions of the flora and fauna. Sometimes he got to be a bit much, and we'd roll our eyes at all the detail. But for the most part, he added a great dimension to our adventure. He knew where to look for the petroglyphs that we spent a lot of time examining in great detail, and we imagined what it would have been like to have been there and who these people were who had painted these pictures on the rocks so long ago. And he took great pride in giving us a lot of detail about what we were looking at, telling us about all of the different kinds of trees we were seeing. He could identify trees. He was no lumberman, so we knew all the trees. He also wanted to have a campsite that was just had all the details and had everything put together just so. He was into construction, and so we built a table that was absolutely level and flat, and we made sure that our tent was pitched so that the sun would rise in the proper place, and that the canvas was stretched tight, and everything else. So Mike was our conscience and our awareness, and he really added a quality to our trip that we wouldn't have otherwise had. He took these photographs, and when we got home, he carefully placed them in order and wrote details in the margins of each slide. Then he invited us over to his Eden Prairie home on Mitchell Lake and treated us to a slideshow and lemonade. Remember slideshows? Well, Mike's very favorite slide was the one that we faked of him lifting a canoe overhead in order to portage it. Well, that portage was never actually made. The most exciting part of our week came when we fought a small forest fire. I would like to say that we had pictures of the plume of fire and smoke that we saw across from the lake from our campsite that fine morning, but we don't. We awoke to early riser Dick yelling, "Fire!" And sure enough, careless campers had abandoned a campfire over on Sunday Lake, and it would soon be out of control. Trees on the lakeshore were engulfed in flame and fire, and smoke was shooting skywards. We threw on some clothes and paddled furiously across the lake and struggled for at least an hour, throwing dirt and water on it. I would like to say that we had photos. Editor Dick Dahl instinctively fired shot after shot of the event, only to learn that, in all the excitement, the film had not advanced, and we had nothing. For his part, Mike had left his camera behind. So all we have is a shot or two of our final inspection trip before we began our 2-day trip back out of the wilderness to the Canadian border in order to check out with the park ranger. While we were finishing our firefight, 2 campers had paddled past. We told them our story and what had happened. They preceded us out of the park. By the time we reached the ranger cabin 2 days later, our news had spread. We were greeted as heroes at the ranger station, given cookies and milk by the ranger's wife, and later cited by the Canadian government for our, quote, heroic fire suppression efforts. How did they know, out of all the campers, that we were the heroes? Well, explained the ranger, you're the only group that fit the description. 3 guys and an old man. The old man flirted with the ranger's wife over the plate of cookies she offered. And when we left the station, there were handshakes all around, but not for the effervescent Mike Eames. Oh no. The ranger's wife bent down a bit and sweetly kissed him on his bald head. I've lost my citation from the Canadian government along with the maps of our trails and other souvenirs. What I have now is this pile of slides, that and the memory of an old man and his final adventure in the wilderness.